Good afternoon, folks, and welcome back. This is episode 10 of What Do I Know? In this episode, I'm primarily going to focus on February of 2021 because there was a hell of a lot that went on that month. Some of it good, some of it pretty bad. Just before we get into February, there was an occurrence that took place at the end of January of 2021 that really set the tone for what was going on. I'd made a very serious formal complaint to the police about comments that had been made in an email by Sue Moore in her position as counsellor, which to me amounted to an incitement to harass public officials, an incitement to cause suffering to public officials, and public officials to be targeted. Those public officials, of course, being Brian, myself and Barry. What I found was that the police had decided to go and forward the email to the MO. Yet again, that meant another avenue to us was completely blockaded because we knew exactly what the MO was going to do. Because, and I can say this, and I will say this, he hasn't got an honest bone in his body. And from my experience of him, of what he's done, yeah. We've even found out now that the monitoring officer was sent a copy of the cut, sliced and spliced video as published by Janet Taylor on her Facebook page in an email dated 28th of January. And on examination of that email, we know the source have been the clerk, who we'll say was absolutely illegally reinstated by the mob. Of course, we get into the beginning of February. The video is published and it goes viral. We study everything that's going on, and an article in the Knutsford Guardian is brought to my attention by a friend of mine who lives in Knutsford. And I read this article with interest. It was a young lady who claimed to have published the video on Twitter. But then the article goes on to state that she has got a very good friend of hers who's a Cheshire East counsellor and has told her all the ins and outs of what was going on Handful Parish Council and what's been going on. Now, I don't know about any of you, but I look at that and say, to me, that is a very serious breach of confidentiality and completely and utterly undermines the investigation. In fact, actually, it kills it. It kills that investigation. So what really should have happened there, and I know that Barry did bring this up at Cheshire East, what should have happened is investigation should have been completely stopped, properly reborn, properly reconstituted, and gone again. Again, we were ignored. Again, a very serious illegality was just swept under the carpet by the powers at Cheshire East, and we were just thrown to the wolves yet again, and it continued. I will say this, the night it also went viral, I received a good few phone calls from friends and well-wishers, the first two being Brian and Barry. And I'm going to say this is what we went through that night, roughly about 12:30. It was a Thursday evening, that first Thursday in February 2021. When I stay here in Anfield, my room is at the front of the house, and I was asleep with my partner. My parents are next door, and the whole front of our house was lit up by a bright light. We retreated to the rear of the house. We've got internal security cameras in the house. And I logged onto them and found that it was a TV crew that was camped out in front of our house. Well, I immediately phoned the police and I said, I'm not having that. That is a non-starter. The police moved them on, but I then said, I am not staying here. So, yes, we were in COVID, we were in lockdown, but I had two places I could go to. I was very lucky at that time. And I went to my partner's in Wilmslow, and that's where I stayed. Now, 3 days later, on Sunday morning, for me, I would say disaster struck, which virtually spelled the end. I had what I can best describe as a medical episode, and at the minute we still don't know whether it was a panic attack or a minor heart attack. I can tell you at the minute, those with the knowledge and the know-how are leaning towards it being a minor heart attack. But it didn't stop me, but I had to be careful. I contacted Mary and Brian as soon as I was fit and well enough to do so, and I told them what had happened to me. And they were very, very worried and incredibly supportive. But what did start happening at that time as well was I started receiving death threats. As did Brian, as did Barry. And obviously, as you can well bet, that was very, very worrying, not just to our immediate families, but also to our friends, close and further afield. I've got family, I would say, in quite a few of the countries in the world, and I was getting phone calls around the clock. What the hell's going on? And I had to tell them what was happening, why it was happening. This very same time, I also waved bye-bye to Robinson because I said, look, if you're not going to play by the rules, I'm not talking to you, I'm having nothing to do with you. I made it quite clear through my solicitor I had no confidence in him. I had no confidence in him professionally, no confidence in him to behave himself personally. It was also quite clear that the investigation that he was carrying out was predicated on discrimination, that it was not even-handed, and it was very much so subject to a very, very heavy amount of bias. But there were other things happening at this time as well, which gave us some positivity. The first thing was we fired off a formal complaint to Clerk about Jackie Weaver, and we felt that we could get some success there. But I'm going to tell you, Clerk did the unbelievable, and despite all the evidence showing that Jackie Weaver had behaved illegally, found in her favour and chose to protect him. That to me is unacceptable. And I'm not going to let that lie. I'm not. I'm intending to fully address that, to make sure that's never closed, and to make sure that justice is done there. There's still a lot of hard work to do, but I do think very much so that a very, very good and positive result can be achieved. But for them, with all that evidence showing what she'd done that was wrong, and we were backed by councillors from other town and parish councils, and not just in this area of Cheshire, but from further afield. Yeah, even in Chester and Chester West, saying, Chalk's a pain in the arse, not worth the money, it's, not worth the money at all, not worth, and nothing, it's worthless. We were even actually given an example where Jackie Weaver again had a finger on the button and decided to mute councillors when she had no right to do it. And that was well reported to Brian, Barry and myself. And that made us suddenly realise that she must know what she was doing was wrong. But if nobody's brought her up on it, she's got away with it, and he wonders she's doing it again. To further compound our problems, we knew we had to call meetings, but with this going on with the videos, we knew the eyes and ears of the world were going to be on Hatfield Parish Council to see what was happening. Another problem was we knew that if we called a meeting, Ashley was likely going to get sacked. We were going to pass a censorship motion on them, which meant they could not rescind it. Now, they were bringing things, they would also be that childish. They'd call extraordinary meetings or XOs on 3 days' notice like they did, in the middle of January, and just disqualified things. Just putting motions on an agenda in 3 names is not enough. It has to be signed and it has to be dated. We must follow rules here, and they were not doing it. We had a major frank discussion with our legal team at this time, asking whether or not it was safe for us to call these meetings. And I was certainly not well, so was it going to be safe for me to be there with that level of stress in the first place? Also, we had to ask ourselves, what was the propensity and what was the level of risk that the 3 babies, or the mob, would call a meeting, an extraordinary meeting at 2 or 3 days' notice, and just rescind everything again, because we're just going to get into a vicious circle going around. What's the point? The council was completely and utterly stuck. It was stagnated. It was hamstrung. Absolutely hamstrung. We've got 3 babies who were pursuing a coup d'etat, and thanks to Jackie Weaver, we're virtually there getting it over the line. And there's us trying to fight for all we were worth. And at this stage, as we're having this meeting with our legal team knows we fired off an LBA, or a letter before actions, Cheshire East, regards the lawful disqualification of a councillor and the illegal holding or planned illegal holding of an unlawful election in April later in 2021 of this particular year. We did get an answer from to our letter before action from Waitman's, and I'll be honest with you, we didn't respond. And it's not because we didn't respond because we were frightened. We weren't. We responded because we were laughing too hard. It was an absolute Walter Mitty letter. It didn't address any of the points that we raised. It waffled around things. It mentioned things. It mentioned case law. It mentioned case law about saying you've got to go to the High Court to disqualify an election. Well, we haven't had an election yet. No votes have been cast. That was not needed. It completely misunderstood the 6-month rule. It failed to consider 2 accepted legal cases, which, as you will find out, have now been accepted in a High Court judicial assessment. Okay, as being correct. We also instructed another council regards the video, and that council was fantastic, came back and said, that video should never have been recorded in the manner it was. That video was illegal, and whoever undertook it did not comply with GDPR. And the council's not complying with GDPR because there's no way in the world that video should have been published. Again, to remind people what should have happened, it should have been on the agenda, and it wasn't. It should have been published on that night, and the statement should have been read to that effect, and it wasn't. In fact, we had no idea, as I say, that meeting was being recorded. We got great messages of support in, and one that particularly stuck in my mind actually came from council themselves. And council stated as follows: I do not know what is going on at Handforth Parish Council, but one thing stands out to me very clearly, and that is that it seems that the public at this time are being fed only one side of the story. We are all being led to believe that the group led, and he names us by Brian Tolver are the baddies and the other 3 councillors are the goodies. Council states, I do not believe this for 1 minute, and those who think it ever so funny should think of the destruction taking place to the councillors involved. Council goes on. One has to question the impartiality of Jackie Weaver in this situation. She had the ultimate weapon at her fingertip and was very ready to use it. In doing so, or in doing that, she was taking advantage of the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown, which is something she could not have done if the council meeting was in a normal building and face-to-face. To silence 3 councillors going about their legitimate business is disgraceful and illegal, and judging by the pictures of her during and afterwards, she was enjoying every minute and lapping up her newfound power and notoriety. This is council. He asks, had she taken lessons from Donald Trump? Are we to be ruled, there's the next question, are we to be ruled by Zoom weaponry for the foreseeable future? Or can we get back to normal respect, politeness and discussion? Is this going to be possible in the interim and the short and long term? Well, our answer was completely no, because there was no way in the world we were going to be able to work with them, and we knew they were not going to work with us. And what we'd gone through from them, the lies and lies and lies and deceit, and now this, it was just off the table. Council goes on, says social media has an awful lot to answer for, and contrary to popular belief, on this occasion, he's aiming to destroy democracy. Exactly. Particularly democracy here in Handforth. He said, we are not talking about teenagers committing suicide, but our elected voluntary politicians being publicly vilified and without a fair, balanced hearing. Council asks, what we need to know is the history behind this situation. What exactly has been going on? Council said, one hears that there has been a poisonous and acrimonious atmosphere in this council for many years. And you know what? Somebody must have been thinking right down the same lines as our barrister, because they published a similar comment to an article published on wilmslaw.co.uk. I was very pleased to see it. I know Brian was. Damn sure I know that Barry and his family were pleased to see it. As we progressed through February, things got even a bit more interesting, because we ended up with a situation where we could write to all members of Cheshire East when all this was falling out to put our side of the story. Something that Brian and I did. I know Barry did it. Barry was also having to fight the ignominy of having a vote of no confidence brought against him, which was completely wrong. That was tabled by two councillors who just simply hadn't got an iota of a clue as to what was going on. But instead they're going to jump in with 2 feet, bang, straight in, 2 feet, the hell with the consequences, the hell with hearing about the truth. As this was kicking off, something fell into our lap that we never ever envisaged would fall into our lap. And that was a series of emails. These were provided by 4 separate members of Cheshire East. 2 are still there, 2 have now gone. And no, neither of them lost their seats at the 2023 election. They chose to go. They contacted Jackie Weaver over this very incident and what was going on. Okay. And in each of these emails, and we've been provided with the copies of her answers, she conceded in every one of those emails that she did not know and failed to check to see if those 2 meetings of December the 10th, 2020 were lawfully convened. So there she's admitted a complete failure in a duty of care to make sure those meetings were lawfully convened. I tell you what she should have done on top of that, which shows that she doesn't know what she's doing. The first 2 people she should have contacted were Brian and myself as the chair and vice chair respectively, because that's what's required by the standing orders. You cannot approach a third party without permission of council. The standing order, and I think it's 23B, if I remember correctly. That is exactly what had happened. So there's not one failing, there's 2 here. 2 massive failings. We gave these to our legal team, and everyone's looking at them saying, right, she's bound to rights. We let Chalk know this, because by this time we still have not had a response from Chalk regards our full complaint. Okay? We still haven't had one. We still don't know what's going on. We're thinking now this is more going our way than anything. We know the investigations are bent and are crooked, and I've said I'm not having anything to do with these investigations at all, because I'm not been fitted up. And another reason I said at this time now, middle of February, 1, I'm ill, and 2, I've never been given notification. I'm under investigation. So forget it. I'm not taking part. You do things properly, you do things legally by me, or forget it. I don't want cutting corners. I want honesty. I want openness. I want transparency. I want to see some integrity on the scene. Investigations, I've seen nothing. Absolutely nothing. Yeah? This same time, I received a letter, and it must have been written by a juvenile. But of concern, he's copied a huge chunk of the monitoring officer's letter. That letter that was sent to us in confidentiality in November the previous year. Yeah? Remember the previous year. And then he writes at the bottom of the letter, I shared your address on Facebook. That you address, so you can't even check what you're writing. The English was particularly poor. And do you know what? This person, I think, really must be a tough guy. And I think you can see the tongue-in-cheek there and see me being a bit sarcastic. Because you know what? This tough guy didn't even have the guts to put his name on the letter and identify himself. I tell you what, I'd love that person come knock on my door and identify themselves if they've got the balls. I severely doubt, because of the letter they've written, which I have still got, by the way, has got the balls. And I tell you what, I'll even show you the pathetic standard of writing That's the pathetic standard of writing on the envelope. Now, I don't know about any of you, but if you've got any iota sense regards to writing, writing can indicate something about a person. Go and look that up. I'm not going to go into that too much, but it's obvious. If it's really good stylish writing, yeah, like that, it tells you something else. Okay? That tells me it's quite clearly somebody who's easily led, who probably doesn't have the capability to reasonably think out and see common sense, or probably, well, I'll leave that up to you. I'll leave it up to you. I know what my thoughts are. One more issue that arose again. We had to respond to certainly emails flying around Chester East at this time with the publication of the video, because one Julie Smith wrote an email, and I have to say, I think what she should have done, if she was going to make herself believable with this email, started it once upon a time and on a galaxy far, far away. Because she didn't do that, you couldn't believe it. What she also failed to do as well was, in writing this email, she should have made it quite clear that she had a conflict of interest, because her husband, yes, Johnny Boy, was a member of Hamforth Parish Council and was one of the 3 babies pursuing a coup d'etat. Yes. And just so you know, I'm going to let you all know why I have my feelings regards to him, because he's going to be the subject of a special, because where it all started with me and him way before I got elected, actually just under 3 years before I got elected, but he wouldn't let it go, and he continued telling lies about me. And quite frankly, I would say, yeah, he's got my attention. And he owes me an apology. I know I'll never get it, because he hasn't the balls to give it me. He hasn't the guts. Yeah. Whenever he sees any of us in or around the village or wherever, he can't look in our direction. He tries to play the "I'm ignoring you" card. You're not really there. Well, I'm afraid to say, we are still here. You may have killed 2 of us, but you haven't killed us all. And our group has grown tenfold. Okay? So we're still here. And we're not done. And I will say this. One way or another, and come hell or high water, we are going to find a way back. You had it there first. And that is true. That is true. You've not killed us. And you never will, and you never would. Another thing that we had to deal with, as I say again, was meetings. Again, we had to decide, were we going to go to meetings? Were we not? Well, we decided, because Ashley was present, albeit, or would be present, albeit illegally, because he'd been illegally reinstated by the mob, we felt we could not rightfully take up our seats. Another reason I couldn't go is I wasn't well enough. I didn't know what the future held for me. It was February. Yeah. Barry put his foot down. I said he had no interest in going. He could not be there if the clerk was going to be there, because he viewed the clerk's presence as being illegal. And I said, well, if we could get a motion on the agenda, if we were able to set it or something like that, we could motion to say we're going to vote for his dismissal. But the problem was, we all needed to be there. And as I say, I was not well. I was not well at all. Because by this time, my heart rate was up and down. It was all over the place. I could suddenly have a nice relaxing heart rate, say around 69 to 72 as is normal, suddenly, whoosh, go straight up to between 150 and 180. And I'm thinking, no, it's knocking me bandy. What's going on? All because of this. And I'm thinking, I've got to put my health first. We then received messages of support from around the country, from councillors around the country. And it was, yeah, from North Yorkshire, from Scotland, from Wales, we have from Northern Ireland, from Worcestershire, Lancashire, Gloucestershire, Berkshire, Wiltshire, Essex, Surrey, Hampshire, or even Cornwall and Devon. We had them from all over, Cumbria as well, and Norfolk, and we really did appreciate each and every one. And I'm going to say this, there were some that were sent to my parish council email account, which we found something out about this month. Have you found out that things had been sent to my parish council email account? Okay. We decided this was going to have to be investigated because, lo and behold, during February, Brian and Barry ended up with formal complaints against them regards the Jackie Weaver incident back in December. I got nothing. I got absolutely nothing. So I've got nothing. Nothing's been sent to me. Nothing by post. Nothing. Couldn't fax me because I haven't got a fax machine. Who would have this day and age? I mean, well, they'll probably have some about, but you know, you email, don't you? Unless you have to fax. If you have to, you have to. I know you can still fax, but I'd rather email. Yeah, but I got nothing. So what we did is I helped Brian to respond to those complaints, but Brian put in a super piece of prose around all the members of Cheshire East, which literally laid down the truth. At the same time, we were still being bird-dogged by the press, and I'm going to say some of them were pretty good, but some of them were pretty bad. The worst I had was actually, I'm going to say this was Loose Women. Not asking me to come on the show, telling me that I'm going to come on the show and apologise to Jackie Weaver. Do one. You've got more chance of seeing a flying pig or a flying elephant. Never going to happen, never will happen. Because I want to say this. I know there are people out there going to disagree with me when I say this. They're entitled to that, but it's a fact. I ain't got nothing to apologise for. Nothing. Because I did nothing wrong. And that's official now. That's official. I shall find out. What we also started doing at this time as well, again, more meetings with the legal team. We came together to try to break down these investigations to see what was going on, because we knew that they weren't being conducted lawfully or anything. We knew that. We knew it first hand, we knew it first off. We didn't need to be told anything else. More questions were being asked was, were you notified that you're under investigation? Brian said yes. Barry went, well, the first I found out is the email I got from Mark Robinson, the investigator, which of course should never have gone directly to Barry. It should have gone to the legal team, the solicitor. It didn't. I said, I got nothing. I had nothing. I said, then I got Mark Robinson in January telling me, oh, you're not under investigation. We just want your opinion. You just, oh, so I'm a witness in a way. I mean, yeah. And that was it. Right, fine, fair enough. That I was going to have nothing published about me, anything like that. Right, fine, fair enough. Whatever. We also decided as well in this meeting with our legal team that we were going to have to cut down on this because, look, we were spending a colossal amount of money here. We're talking potentially getting a bill each of £2,000 a month. And we hadn't claimed anything back. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to anybody, whether you're working or you're not. Unless it was Barry and Brian were retired. I was working, you know. But of course, now with me being ill, couldn't work. I'm on sick, which, yeah, exactly. And she's not what I wanted, but such is life. And I agreed with Barry, I'm not throwing any more money at this. And Brian was the same. Which is why we also looked at the situation with regards to judicial review and thought, how the hell is this going to get paid for? Because there was no way in the world we could have put a motion on the parish council agenda for it to go through the parish council. There'd have been all hell let loose. And look at how the babies would have used this. We were also very happy as well that there was really only one person who used our press statement, and I want to thank Piers Morgan for that, because what he did And I don't think he realises what he did. He had Jackie Weaver and 2 of the babies on there. You know, those 2 babies were Cynthia Sampson and John Smith. Of course, yeah, the usual lie. You know, provable lies. But what he did was ask Jackie Weaver, do you think you're the most important person in the country right now, or words to that effect? She replied, no, I think that honour belongs to Julie's iPad. Thank you. You gave away the culprit. You gave away the identity and the name of the person who'd recorded the illegal video. Thank you. You played right into our hands. I want to say, Piers, thank you for asking her that question, because you played a big role in that. Cheers, mate. Big thumbs up, big shout out to you. Appreciate it. It was a big help, because you opened a massive door for us there, because you knew the culprit. So at the time, we didn't know. All we knew was it was one of them. But we didn't know which one. Now we knew which one. And it was clear who the culprit was. It was Julie Smith. Yes, Julie Smith. The woman who we now knew was going to put her name forward for the unlawful election which was to take place in April that year. One and the same. Talk about it don't rain but it pours. That's what life was like for us. I also didn't get any privacy at my partner's. As I was dealing with all of this, I can remember sitting one morning, the sun was out, it was cold, frosty, but not a beautiful February morning, and the house next door had a nice fir tree, and it suddenly started going like that, and I thought, why is that tree doing that? I know where the trees are, look. That must be one hell of a localised hurricane. No, there was a presser in it who was trying to photograph me in the conservatory. Well, we got him. And he got a pretty nasty shot. Because he got nicked. Don't know where he is now. Don't care where he is now. All I hope is he's out of his misery. Yeah. So February was just one... It was just one problem after another, after another. And we had to figure a way of moving forward, and we took that decision. We decided to keep on with the investigation into the Clerk and found a way of getting it done. And we got an answer, all right, regards to that. As you'll find out, and it took into 2022, nearly 2023, for that investigation to wind down. I don't know whether the investigator contacted the Clerk. I don't know. Because in some ways, in investigations, you don't have to contact the subject. Just look at evidence and give us, opinion. That's one way of doing it. We had such a large amount of evidence that just had an investigator, and they came back and gave us an answer, but I will get to what that answer was. But we managed to kick that off, so that was one positive. We were not going to stop at this. As February was drawing to a close, there was other things that became very apparent. And one of those things was just how appallingly we were being treated. Because lo and behold, Ashley received a Freedom of Information Act request. And the information request asked for 7 things. Okay? The recording of the Employment Committee meeting of the 25th of August 2020. The recording of the Extraordinary Committee meeting on the 27th of August 2020. The recording of the Employment Committee meeting of the 4th of November 2020. the minutes and recording of the planning meeting of 8th and or 10th of December 2020, the minutes and recording of the meeting on 12th of January 2021, the minutes and recording of the XO meeting on the 18th of January 2021, and the recording of the meeting on the 22nd of January. Well, it wasn't 22nd of January, it was 21st of January, so we got a wrong date. Ashley forwarded this round to us all, and alarmingly he had responded to this person. I've been able to provide a small portion of the information which you've requested. However, I don't hold items 1, 2, 3, 5 and 6, as I was not present at these meetings. I also do not hold any information pertaining to your additional requests for information. And he circulated it to us. Now, the additional requests for information were a copy of the barrister's opinion, likely dated July or August 2020, cited in the meetings of the 25th, 27th of August relating to the disqualification of a councillor and all the legalities of the conduct of the clerk. 2. Any correspondence from November 2020 to present, which would be February this month, relating to the removal of agendas, minutes or recordings from Huffle Parish Council website. News to me. Any correspondence from November 2020 regarding publishing minutes and or recordings in social media, including Facebook. News to me. 4. Copies of the emails between the councillors and the clerk referred to page 6 of 4 of the meeting with the 27th of August 2020. All correspondence with CH&I Associates. Right. Just so people know, that was rich with personal data and confidential data. And I responded to Ashley. I was fuming. My email was sent, and I'm going to leave you with this. My email was sent to Brian and Barry, the MO, Sam Corcoran, and the Deputy Leader, and was blind copied into our solicitor and the other 2 barristers. And I'm going to read you that email. Ashley, I am deeply concerned that you appear to be undertaking duties as the clerk. I have morosely had to write to you in these terms, as I have no choice, as I am now very concerned that you are going to willfully release confidential information which is confidential to the council to a member of the public. I wish to remind you that you are legally still suspended. The meeting held on the 21st of January 2021 falls under the same heading as those of the 10th of December 2020, in that it was unlawfully called as the chair did not receive a requisition for the calling of said meeting. Therefore, the decision to reinstate you was unlawful and is legally invalid. Please will you cease and desist from undertaking duties as the clerk, as you have no legal right to do so. This request must be forwarded to the chair immediately. If you choose to ignore my respectful request, I wish to advise you that because certain individuals have refused to regiment and modify their conduct to that which would be legally acceptable, that there is now a criminal investigation in full process as initiated by our solicitor, and that can't be interfered with. Therefore, this information cannot be released or commented on, as to do so will pervert the course of the said investigation, which would be a serious criminal offence. Telling the truth, it would be an obstruction. Of further concern is that you failed to realise that all of the information is either confidential, private property, or contains personal data which cannot in any event be released under the auspices of FOI. I've taken big time advice here from the ICO. Big shout out to the ICO for this. I must ask, and in no way to cause upset, but out of serious concern, have you undertaken or done any FOI training? Has anyone helped you with this? The best lead here is the response of Mr. Brown to an FOI request where he correctly stated the exemption in section 40, subsection 5b, subsection A, subsection I, provides that the duty to confirm or deny whether information is held does not arise. This is because providing confirmation or denial would contravene the principles relating to the processing of personal data as set out in Article 5 GDPR. This is just one reason why no information could be released. There are further exemptions which do apply. 1. The minutes of Employment Committee meetings, Council meeting the 27th of August 2020, when these matters were discussed, and the minutes and recording of the meeting the 18th of January 2021 are all protected by Part B confidentiality and cannot be disclosed, and the videos of the meetings in August 2020 fall under the same heading. Section 41 Freedom of Information Act 2000 specifically addresses this point. This exemption provides that if you receive information from someone else and that complying with the request would be a breach of confidence, that this is actionable. If you receive information from any counsellor, this will constitute receiving information from someone else. The common law principles of the test for confidence will apply. This exemption is an absolute exemption, so the public interest test does not apply. With the test for confidence, public interest does come into, but because this was business conducted under Part B, it cannot be disclosed. Point 2. Section 31 FOI is also an exemption that applies here. Section 31 only applies for information that does not fall under or in any of the categories in Section 30. Section 31 applies where complying with the request would prejudice or be likely to prejudice various law enforcement purposes, in this case preventing crime and administering justice. This information has been passed to Mr. Brown for his own investigation, and I am very certain that he will not want confidential information being leaked out which would fatally and legally floor his investigation. As it was, his investigation was legally and fatally flawed. This is not an absolute exemption, and the public interest test does apply, but the information was again generated in the circumstances of a highly confidential nature and cannot be released. Point 3. Section 42 FOI provides an exemption for legal professional privilege and applies where a request would lead to the revealing of information which is subject to legal professional privilege. Legal professional privilege protects the client or clients and their professional legal advisor for the purposes of obtaining legal advice for ongoing or proposed legal action. This is a long-established rule which exists to ensure people are completely confident that they can be completely frank and open with their legal advisor when obtaining legal advice. As such, our legal advice will not be released at all. This further act of harassment has been reported to our solicitor and to counsel. Section 44 FOI also provides an exemption where prohibitions on disclosure apply. Section 44 provides that this exemption can apply where complying with a request for information is not allowed under law. FOI does not override other laws that prevent disclosure, i.e. statutory bars. Part B, confidential information cannot be disclosed. Its confidentiality is absolute. Point 5. Communications from and to CH&I cannot be disclosed as they form part of the investigation. Their release would prejudice information. I do want to draw your attention to Section 170 Data Protection Act 2018, where it states that to knowingly and recklessly share personal data without the consent of the data controller is a criminal offence. There are multiple data controllers involved here, and given the confidential nature of the information, they will not likely release it. Please will you confirm to me that you have understood all of this? I'm trying desperately to help you and to guide you as best as possible and to ensure you do not cause yourself a problem. I sincerely hope that you will let me help you. No information can be released and this FOI request should be refused, but you must pass this to the chair to deal with as soon as possible. I have taken considerable advice from the ICO today prior to sending this email. Many thanks. Best and kind regards, Alan. Now I think that's a pretty frank email. As it was, and give him credit, he didn't respond to that. So obviously that message must have got through, but of course we know the three babies do like to reveal information, and it wouldn't surprise me if some information got out somewhere somehow. So it was, to leave you with that now, that was February. February was really firing. We knew that the investigation the MO was conducting was messed up. We also had a fair idea there was a possibility that my parish council email address was being used to send stuff to, despite the fact everybody being in the know knew it was out of action. Okay? We had to await, at this time, a response from Chang. We got that smack dab at the end of February, and they were taking no action against Jackie Weaver. Go figure. Talk about, I thought that was pretty lame. we were all disgusted and talk about, we know she's done wrong, but because it's our Jackie, we're not going to do anything. To me, that's shielding a wrongdoer. But that was Cheltenham. That was February. Pretty much full on, pretty much tough, and as tough as you could want to ever get it. We still wanted to stop the election pretty much so, because it was illegal. It couldn't go ahead. But nobody listened to us at all. And they're getting those emails from the councillors at Cheshire East with regards to Jackie Weaver admitting that she'd not checked lawfully if the meetings had been convened. Well, I know our sister wrote to the monitoring officer saying that basically meant that formal complaints against us were dead in the water and that nothing can happen on that front. Yet again, we got no reply. And that was February. And all the while, I was trying to get better. I hope you've enjoyed that. I should be back soon. Take care.